Hi, and good evening. This is another session of our game of Wanderhome. My name is David, using he, him pronouns. I'll be facilitating the game this evening, though Wanderhome is a game that doesn't have a GM role. We'll all be playing this game together as our own characters. This is a game about talking animal folk, going on journeys in the world, getting into hijinks and the like. This game is written by Jay Dragon. There's a link down below this where you can find more information about the game. This game is being run as part of the Gauntlet, which is an online role-playing group. We get together and play games like this. We arrange through an online calendar. You can go along there and sign up for games. Signing up for games is always free. Is always anyone can do so. There is a Patreon which gets you like kind of advanced access to games, and games can fill up quickly, so it can often be difficult to find free spaces in games. But if you can find a free space in the game, you're always welcome to hop in and play with us. You can find information about that at gauntlet-rpg.com. Again, there'll be a link to that down below. We also have a number of podcasts and a gaming magazine called Codex, as well as a few other games that we publish ourselves. So you can find information on all that stuff on the website. So we'll be introducing a new player and a new character today into our merry band. But first off, we will just do a quick round of introductions of both ourselves and the characters we'll be playing. For those of you who have already been playing, I can add in a little detail about something that you got up to last time, and then we'll introduce Brandon and our character, and we'll get into things. So yeah, I'm going to go broadly in character keeper order. We'll like I said, we'll come back to Brandon once we've gone around to give him time to do a bit more detailed introduction to the character. But yeah, starting off with yourself, please, Jose.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jose, and my pronouns are he and him, and I'm playing Barnaby, the caretaker. Barnaby is a very expressive, reflective otter who carries around on him a number of small and forgotten gods that he's picked up in his travels, in his wanderings, and he cares for them. Let's see, what did he get up to last time? He got up to, he made a new friend last time, a raccoon that with very few words, who helped him do some decorations for a festival, and then also was horrified when Barnaby went for a swim. And he also had some fun under Tal's billowing cloak when he was getting a little bit overheated on the walk through the swamp to the castle. Those were the highlights of Barnaby's episode last time. Good to be here.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much. And next up is, I believe, Nathan.
Hi, I'm Nathan, he, him. I play Gus, a donkey who is a peddler, who carries a great deal of goods of various degrees of value on a mighty beetle named Atlas. Last session, Gus kind of explored the holiday fair that was going on in the town of Flickerstone, and sort of with the help of his companions, found some new and novel ways to combine his wares with the wares of others at the festival to create unique combinations. And in helping to celebrate the festival, was the instrument that gave a key to a little alligator girl that allowed her to open a sort of legendarily forever locked door and to find the mysterious thing that lay inside.
Brilliant, thank you very much. And Donna.
Yeah, thanks, David. My name's Donna. My pronouns are he, him. I'm playing Tao, the veteran, who uses he, him, or they, them pronouns. They are a wolf. And I guess apart from the aforementioned billowing cloak, the item that would most catch your attention is their sword, which shall never be drawn. Tal is sometimes curt and sometimes tired, but I guess amongst friends, maybe that is not quite so bad as it sometimes is with others. Last time we saw them maybe eat a little bit, a lot of orange drizzle cake in Flickerstone and go on a shopping spree, or at least a window shopping spree, looking for something to tie up wreaths of flowers and bouquets. So yeah, it was a very Wanderhome-y session, I guess.
Yeah, and I'm.
Well, you're muted, David.
I managed to mute myself there. Excellent, thank you. Yes, I'm going to introduce myself now. So my name is David. Use he, him pronouns, and I will this evening be playing Quoth. Quoth is the poet. He is a rook who is traveling the world to gather information for a treatise he's working on about the nameless Godslayer who once wielded the Heaven Blade, as well as some additional topics that have kind of worked their way into this. Quoth is wears a big cloak with lots of pockets in it, mostly filled with pens and paper, notebooks and the like. His pockets are likewise filled with lots of half-smoked hand-rolled cigarettes, which he seems to spend a lot more time managing than actually smoking. His hands are stained with ink, even if it's not always immediately obvious from his dark feathers. Last time we saw Quoth delving into some of the history of Flickerstone Castle, including finding some information out about an old feud between a couple of families of alligators that had led to tragedy in the past, which he's sort of agreed to spread the story of this feud as a kind of warning to others. So yeah, that's kind of what we saw him get up to last time. Last but not least for today, Brandon, I'm going to ask if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about who you're going to be playing this evening, and then we'll get into as well your questions to ask other characters. But if you'd just like to start off introducing yourself and who you'll be playing tonight.
Brandon, he, they pronouns, playing Remy, a dancer of the same pronouns, who is a spoonbill of the roseate variety, pink draped in elaborate orange and yellow silks, fairly like loosely flowing and a lot of different pieces that move when they dance, along with draped kind of golden jewelry and chains. They are upbeat to meet, and other than that, I don't know them yet. So I suppose we'll find out more tonight.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much. You'll see on the excuse me. You'll see sort of about halfway down the character keeper on the left-hand column. There are a couple of drop downs there for questions that you can ask, one to the left and one to the right. So if you would like to pick a couple of those questions that you are interested in asking of other characters, and I'm going to say if you just want to pick two characters that you want to ask those of, rather than going in any specific order, as we've sort of done these amongst ourselves already with our own characters. So if you'd like to do that. Oh, the other thing I will mention actually while you're taking a look at those is from our last session, because we attended a festival, we will have all taken an advance. So I'm interested to hear what people have taken for that, or if you haven't yet taken one, to do so. And as well, well, Brandon, if you want to pick an advance for Remy, you may do so as well. You don't have to do that right now. You can do that during the session or at the end of the session, whenever's a good time to do so. But yeah, you can do that. But I'm going to start off with my own one while I'm thinking about it. So I took the option of choosing a new topic from my list of potential topics for my work and incorporating that into my project. So I decided to add the theme of the slobbering god, driven by a desire to understand and empathize, into my treatise on the nameless godslayer, who indeed killed the slobbering god eventually. And I think this came about from Rook's exposure to our alligator knight, Balthazar, last time, and he's realized he has to kind of weigh up both sides of every story before he can properly tell it. So that's where his advance has gone. So I'm just going to come back around the other way. So Donna, did you pick an advance for Tal?
Yeah, I'm maybe reminding everyone that today is my last session in the run, so maybe we won't get to see this on screen, but I said I'd have to pick it anyway. I picked to remember a lesson you had forgotten and reach out to the person who taught it. And the lesson that so when I did character creation, I had selected this as a lesson I had since forgotten, which was learned from a royal monarch, taught you violence is just a way to maintain control, and this is why you must never unsheath your blade. So I think maybe this is spurred on by Quoth's retelling of Balthazar's tale of strife. I think that may have touched a chord in Tal that they were trying to forget. So I'm not sure whether today's session will be like journeying towards that point or kind of do it off screen or something. So yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And next, Nathan, what advance did you pick for Gus?
Yeah, I chose the option to get a token whenever you give something away and expect nothing in return, driven in part by sort of the atmosphere of what the Sun Parade Festival was like in Flickerstone, and specifically kind of carrying away sort of a bit of a change from the extra involvement in the alligator girl and her key, and kind of infusing it with that extra bit of magic just to sort of make something positive happen, for no particular motivation other than the enjoyment of it happening.
Brilliant, thank you very much. And yeah, Jose, what did you pick for Barnaby?
For Barnaby, I picked the advance. Spend a token to transform an empty or abandoned place into a shrine. This place becomes a hallow in addition to whatever else it was. I think this is more in response to the session prior to the last one, the penultimate session, when we were in Flotsam and we met the salamander ghost of the tower, and Barnaby's still thinking about that and how he could have made that ghost and the other forgotten beings living in that tower more comfortable. And so now he's going to try making shrines if the opportunity presents itself.
Brilliant, thank you very much. So yeah, sorry, Brandon, now we'll come back around to you. Have you chosen which questions you would like to ask and who you would like to ask them of?
I have. So I'll ask Gus, why won't you ever dance with me?
Good question. I think it has to do with one of the things that Gus parted with a long time ago was a hand carved flute that my father made when I first set forth into the world. And I think that there's just maybe some like bad memories tied up with sort of enjoying music in that way.
And Quoth, when was the last time we stayed up and watched the sunrise?
Oh, I think this was when we were probably a little not like years ago or anything like that, but probably maybe a couple of months ago when our paths last crossed. And I think that we were camping out on our way between a couple of towns. Sat around a campfire, and I think we just kind of spent the night chattering and saying things until the sun rose over the forest the next day. Awesome. So what we're going to do now, obviously those of you who have been in previous sessions will be familiar, but we're going to create our new place that we'll be visiting this week. So I've created another copy just of the template for this. So as a reminder, this is what we have for this. There's a tab in the character keeper. At the moment, it's just called Next Place. We'll come up with a name for it once we've learned a little bit more about the place we'll be going to. So the place that we'll be putting together will have 3 natures. There is there is a lot of hopping backwards and forwards in this character keeper, but there is a tab called Trait and Nature Tables, which has a little short list of all the various natures on it. There's then a natures tab, which has a longer description of each of those natures. So you can refer to whichever of those you find more convenient. What the one in the Trait and Nature Tables tab has in it is numbers next to all of the different natures that are available. If when it comes to your turn to define a nature, you can, if you wish, just roll 2 dice and pick one. Pick the first to be the column and the second to be the row. Or if you want to choose one, that is also cool. So I think we'll just kick things off. I will put a link in chat. I don't think I actually saved one last time. Just to a dice roller if anyone needs it, just for the purposes of rolling up traits and natures. But if you either want to use physical dice or just use choose rather than rolling randomly, that is also cool. I've put the link in there. So I think we'll start by picking some natures. I think today I'm going to start with Gus, if you would like to again either pick or randomly roll for our first nature.
Yeah, no, I'll choose from the comfortable list garden as the first nature of where we're going.
Nice. And Tal, you next. If you would either like to roll or choose one of the natures. Oh, have we lost Donna there? I'll give them a moment to get back in. In the meantime, actually, I'll come around to you next. Remy, if again, if you would either like to pick one of those, one of the natures, or again randomly roll, either is perfectly good.
I'll pick labyrinth.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah, so we've got Donna back now. So yeah, Donna, if you would like to again either pick or roll our third nature for today.
Okay, let me just roll it down, and I've rolled a garden again, so roll something else. We have a sprawling palace.
Nice, nice.
Which is, exactly what you expect to find at the end of a labyrinth, apparently.
Yep, yep. Excellent. Yeah. So our three natures are garden, labyrinth, and palace. That's yeah, quite evocative. So the next thing we'll do is this will again require a little bit of flicking backwards and forwards, but on the natures tab, there are suggestions for both aesthetic elements and folklore based on each nature that we've chosen. So we're going to again go around, just keep going around until we've filled them all out, picking 2 aesthetic elements and 1 folklore for each of our natures. So I'll go first, and I'm going to pick. Let's see. I'm going to pick something for the labyrinth. Ooh, I think, given we've also got like a garden in the mix, I'm going to go with tangled paths as an aesthetic element of our labyrinth. Yeah, Jose, if you'd like to pick our next, again, you can do either an aesthetic element or a piece of folklore, whichever you would rather.
I'll do folklore, just following up on what you just said, David. I'll do folklore on the labyrinth as well, and it'll be the paths that grow of their own accord.
Nice, nice. Yeah, Nathan, if you'd like to pick an element of one of these natures.
Yeah. Take a quick look at one more of them. Yeah, I'm gonna go and add folklore to the garden. And the folklore I'm going to choose is the old god and the old tree.
Yeah, and Brandon, if you would like to, again, pick either an aesthetic element or a piece of folklore about one of the natures.
Yes. For the garden, a wise elder who remembers you from when you were very young.
Nice, nice.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's a monastery because it's I just control F garden. Herb garden. I was like, that doesn't seem right. Let me see here quick. Oh, carefully trimmed hedges.
Awesome. Yeah, and Donna.
Right, I'm wondering when the carefully trimmed hedges become the tangled paths of the labyrinth here. I think on the labyrinth side, I am going to pick a lost innocent at the heart of it all as one of our aesthetic elements.
Nice, nice. Oh wow, some of those folklore pieces for the palace are great. But I think ooh. No, I am going to go for another character, and I'm going to say the young and royal heir dreaming of freedom is in the palace. Oh yeah, sorry, and that will be back around to you, Jose.
Sure. I'll pick an aesthetic element for the garden, and I'll put in irrigating the fountains. Because I'm always looking for someplace to swim.
If it's my turn, I'll choose an aesthetic for the palace, which is a gleaming throne.
Perfect, perfect. That was the other one I was looking at. So so glad that got in there. Shiny thrones are always good. And yeah, Brandon, last of all, if you would like to pick a piece of folklore for the palace.
Oh, the crumbling dynasty of the floating mountain.
Nice, nice. I'm wondering.
You know what? Can I change that to the throne of crystal and its many lies?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Because that works much better with the throne we have.
Awesome. So now we'll just go kind of like this a little bit more ad hoc, but can now pick just to detail some common animal folk that we might find in this place, and any forgotten gods as well that might dwell here. Yeah, I'll check in with you first, Donna. What do you think? Either a forgotten god that we might find here, or a kind of common type of animal folk that live in this place.
I think maybe we have lynxes, or maybe even something resembling domestic cats here. I don't know whether we have domestic animals, but I guess we have some things that are like domestic animals. Like
yeah, I think so.
Maybe we'll go for lynxes here.
Am I next? I can't remember.
Anyone, you can just jump in if you want.
I'm thinking of those hedges and all the fountains, and I'm thinking about some kind of sparrows of some sort, nesting in the hedges and bathing in the fountains.
Yeah, that's now made me think as well that we really need to have some. I've lost my place. That we really need to have some hedgehogs in this maze as well.
Hedge piggies are the best.
Spell.
I'll add rhino folk into the mix.
I want to add a forgotten god, if possible. A forgotten god of lost loves. I keep thinking of getting lost in a labyrinth, and so I'm thinking about lost loves.
Nice, I like it.
Or no, actually, lost loves. We'll keep it with lost love.
Maybe some sort of variation on a god of the crossroads.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I was just thinking. I like that idea. I think that's cool. I was just thinking of a.
God of branching paths. Something like
Yeah,
that.
that's it. I like that. Awesome. I think that's probably a good sort of starting set for our place. Obviously, if anyone does want to add any other details, that is cool. Go ahead and do so. And yeah, the next question is, what do we think that this place is called? Does anyone have any ideas?
Seems like someone already named it in the chat, didn't they?
Oh, that's from a license. That's a pre-existing thing. Yeah.
We can't
yes,
use it.
Yeah. I meant it as a. The thing I had mentioned was the Gardens of Yin, OSR procedural generator supplement thing, which is a cool thing. But I don't. It didn't intend for for it to become the thing.
Which is a truly horrifying place. Let's not bring that energy entirely.
Yeah. It looks shiny and pretty on the surface, but it's hiding some bad news.
I have an idea of maybe calling it after some gemstone or something that kind of ties in with the crystal, like quartz or I don't know, something. Something maybe not quite as pastoral as our previous place names.
Yeah, because my initial the thing that came to me when thinking about names was just calling it Crystal Palace, but just the football connotations are too strong with that, and I don't think I could.
The word Emeraldine is coming to mind. The Emeraldine something.
Or Jade something.
Jade is nice too.
And the word dominion is coming up for me for some reason. Like the Jade Dominion or the Emeraldine Dominion.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that could work.
Maybe
Yeah.
the Emeraldine Halls, like sort of a combination of like the hallways of the labyrinth and the palace great halls.
Yeah, that's cool as well. I like that.
I like the idea of the halls, like hedges being halls, like they're so tall that they're.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. Yeah, shall we go for the Emeraldine Halls? That's got a nice ring to it, I think.
Ring to it.
I'm just going to start pre-filling in the characters that we know are here. Yep, cool. So yes, the two kith that we know will be present here are a young heir looking for freedom who has the royal trait, and a lost innocent at the heart of the halls who has the lost trait. Once we think about it a bit more, if anyone wants to detail in some other traits that they want to give these characters and Sally a little bit more about them, feel free to go in and do so. Otherwise, we will do that once they come up in play. But yeah, feel free to start making any choices on that now if you wish to. Awesome. So with that, I think we are at a good place to. I think we'll do kind of our initial arrival at this place, and then probably take a quick break after that. So I think we decided. I think there might have been while you were offline, Donna, but we decided that we're just going to kind of come in with Remy as part of our group, kind of in media res, rather than meet them at the place. So I think we'll just all have been after our departure from Flickerstone, will have absorbed Remy into our merry band. So yeah, I always forget these questions. I'm just going to quickly actually think they might be in. Yes, here we go. So yeah, we have a couple of questions that we will answer together, and I always forget to do this before we begin properly. So yeah, these ones we just answer together. They're not to any particular player. What sort of place did we just travel from? Do we think we've come straight here from Flickerstone, or do we think we've had kind of some stops on the way?
I could turn that into a different question, which is, do we think, or Remy, do you think that we picked you up in Flickerstone, or maybe on our way from there to here? in a different type of place?
I think somewhere on the road. You maybe mentioned, or somebody mentioned swamp, like in that was you. And probably like dancing fairly idly in the road, going so slowly that your party just came up across them. It was like, oh, hello. Sort of thing. This place feels to me like somewhere that you would find in a, like on the way to somewhere else. So like not exactly a destination you were trying to get to, but like, I don't know, if we were coming up to the back of these gardens, for example, and the castle was farther in the distance, it would be like maybe the overgrown back part of it, or just, yeah, something you would find either in the swamp or like coming up out of the swamp. There's just something tucked in the forest.
Maybe didn't realize that like what seemed like just sort of a twisting path with like an overgrown bower was just sort of slowly leading us in until, oh, we're here. We're in it.
Right. Maybe Remy was in the front and just was like, oh yeah, well, this is a good way to go.
Prancing forward.
Excellent. Cool. So yeah, from the sounds of it, we've probably not traveled like that far on from Flickerstone in the grand scheme of things. It may have been a couple of days of traveling through the swamps, as they did seem quite sprawling from our descriptions last time. But yeah, so our next question, well, it sort of feeds on that. I think I may have just answered that myself, which is, do we feel our journey has been long? And yeah, I think if we're sort of still on the outskirts of the swamp, I don't feel like it's been a hugely long time since we left Flickerstone. Unless anyone thinks otherwise, but yeah.
In terms of what, like summing up what the place we just left was like, to rewind just a second, maybe the image I have in my mind of like the emotional tone sort of is like, metaphorically, you know, after a spring rain stops and there's still a lot of like gray clouds in the air, in the sky, and it just moves past far enough that the sun peeks out. That's kind of how I feel about where we just left.
Yeah, excellent. And our third question is there somewhere that we hope to go? Do we have, well, does anyone have a destination in mind, or is are we just kind of traveling more idly still at the moment?
I mean, I think maybe given Tal's kind of recent advance, he has suggested coming here, and maybe, or he said he wants to go here himself, and maybe people have decided to tag along. Maybe this is where he'll meet the monarch who taught him this lesson all these years ago.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, that does seem fitting. Does anyone else have somewhere that they hope to go?
Never.
Very fair. Yeah, I think likewise. Quoth is probably, again, excited to come here, but I don't think it was kind of on his itinerary, as it were, to the extent that he has an itinerary.
I think Gus is going along with it, but his state of opinion, well, he hasn't stated it, but in his head, he thinks this sounds like a hard place to get out of. So he's got some trepidations.
Excellent. And now finally, we have one last question, which I did forget to do last time, which is, this one is something we don't answer out loud. This is something we merely ask ourselves, ask our characters, and just keep to ourselves, which is, will I someday find a home? So I'll give you all a moment. Excuse me, I'll give you all a moment to think that over. And yeah, I think with that we will. I'll get to the point where we will kick things off. So I think just have a quick look at. We are now in the month of Bloom Meadow, which has its own little. Oh, in fact, yes, that's the other mechanic that I forgot to do last time, but we had the festival last time, and the time before that I just forgot. But yeah, so yeah, Bloom Meadow is the first month of bright, when all flowers bloom and pollen fills the air. So this is a little bit like the festival questions we did last time. There are 4 things on a list: time to relax, sunny skies, good cheer, and the occasional soggy day. This place that we are in, so the Emeraldine Halls, lacks one of these things. Everything else is present. Which do we think is the one that is missing?
I mean, there's a good cheer.
I was
That's what I was
thinking
too.
that as well. It feels like it doesn't feel like a cheerful place, certainly. So I think that makes sense. And then
Which question was that for? Sorry.
Oh, so that's on the Bloom Meadow tab. We just choose one thing that this place lacks. So what this place does have is time to relax, sunny skies, and the occasional soggy day. It does not have good cheer. And then we can choose a few signs of the month that are found in this place. And again, there's a drop down for that.
I don't think we answered these yet too, but there 2 of the choices from the place have extra things once we arrive to for the garden. When we arrive, we decide what it has in abundance, and for the palace, when we arrive, we decide who claims to rule it and who really rules it.
Indeed. Yeah, I think I'm going to find the tab again. I'm going to say I think that this place has people wear flower crowns, and I definitely feel like there's probably almost certainly some kind of etiquette and intent behind how these flower crowns are designed and how they're worn, but it almost certainly escapes Quoth.
I mean, I know last time when we were in Flickerstone, we decided flower crowns or garlands was the thing they didn't have, right? Maybe that's gotten more of an import now that we see how prevalent flower crowns are here in the Emeraldine Halls.
Yeah.
I think looking at the list, waves of pollen are a thing they've got lots of here, and it kind of like informs what time to relax looks like. I think that there'll be a breeze, and there'll be a sort of drowsy wave that passes through as the pollen kind of drifts through the air.
Nice.
I was thinking, even though there's not good cheer in abundance, there might be the distant sound of laughter, whatever tone we might take that in.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, if you want to pick any more, then go ahead. Otherwise, we can. The other question that we'll consider, and I'll come around and ask everyone in turn in a second, is every time Blue Meadow rolls around, we'll ask the table, do you have any grudges? And we mark a flower for each person who says anything other than yes. This probably won't have much bearing, as we're unlikely to come around to a second Blue Meadow in this run of the game. However, still an interesting question to ask. So yeah, I will. I'll ask Barnaby. do you have any grudges?
I think so. One of the things that Barnaby has, a treasure that he can no longer treasure, or a ceremonial object that he can no longer treasure, is a beautiful wooden walking stick adorned with feathers and runes passed down through the generations. And I think it was passed down by his grandfather, who had a lot of expectations about what Barnaby was going to be in his life, and it was not a caretaker. I think Barnaby still holds a grudge against his grandfather for all his kind of domineering ambitions for Barnaby.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Gus, do you have any grudges?
I don't think Gus has any grudges.
Fair. Tal, how about yourself? Do you hold any grudges still?
I think it's inevitable. I think they're stowed away, right? Where I don't stumble over them, but they're still there.
Yeah, sure thing. And Remy, do you hold any grudges?
Oh, no, not at all. Remy flows through the world, not bringing any baggage with them whatsoever. They certainly, wouldn't tell you about the home that they left behind, and the people who wanted them to dance in a particular way that they were not interested in. So, yes.
Fair. And finally, Quoth. I don't think that Quoth does hold any grudges, really. I think he still has some questions about certain things, but I don't think he holds any grudges against any individuals. So yeah, perfect. So yeah, with that, I think actually if we take our first quick break here, so if we want to come back at 1:15 and pick things up there, and I'll see you all in a moment. Yeah, awesome. So I guess let's kind of set the scene for our arrival at the gardens of the Emeraldine Halls. How do we think we kind of are making our way here?
I like the idea that we happened upon, did you say a bower, Nathan? Or something, some entrance to it. We didn't realize we were entering a labyrinth until we were far enough into it that we realized we were already lost in the labyrinth. And I think we were headed for the castle, but the castle's on the far side of the gardens and the labyrinth, right?
That makes sense.
Yeah, that sounds cool.
And Remy was in the lead, dancing down the tangled paths.
Not realizing it until somebody else pointed out. Like, should we go left? Should we go right? How many lefts have we taken?
Maybe we've just been following the steps of the dance that in this particular case happened to lead, deeper and deeper into the heart of the halls.
And don't worry, Gus, it wasn't really a dance. It was just a bunch of steps.
Very Wizard of Oz vibes. But however, this does feel like an appropriate point to there is a, so again, each of these natures has like a couple of moves associated with them that the players can always do, and as ever, anyone can always pick pick these up when they think that would be an interesting addition to the story. But this definitely feels like one of the labyrinth moves here is called give someone two options, neither of which is correct, and give them a token. So yeah, I think Remy, you do come to a fork in this tangled maze of paths in the garden, and I think, as I said, there's one that leads to the left, one leads to the right, and I think if we go to the left, I think it will be a relatively simple path for us to take it. It won't be as confusing as those, but it will take us some time to get there. And I think we'll also be traveling sort of through a we'll be sort of traveling through the labyrinth itself for a lot longer if we go that way. If we go right, it's a quicker route, but it's more confusing. There's more chance we'll get lost, and I think it's also a way that's perhaps going to make us more exposed to the sumber pollen that sort of drifts to this place. You'll get a token, which either of those you choose, but which direction do you think Remy leads us in?
I think Remy hears some light, maybe childish laughter from the right, more complicated path. It's like, oh, well, there's someone that way. Let's go see what they're doing, and leads us into a tangled route.
Awesome. Yeah, and I think Quoth will definitely scamper along behind Remy, head bobbing around as he's kind of looking for the source of this laughter.
I'm thinking this might be where we encounter our flower crown wearing people. We might see some like young kith chasing each other around a fountain that we come to after that has like a lot of paths going from it, which is probably part of why it's going to be so confusing.
Excellent. Yeah, and I think Quoth is going to sort of start trying to make introductions to some of these dancing folk around the fountain. But I think they're a bit too caught up in their frivolity, and they'll acknowledge him and wave at him, but they're not really in a mood to stop and chat at the moment.
I think Tal is maybe at the rear of the group, maybe with Atlas as they lumber along after them. And I think as they kind of come out into this, we call it kind of a courtyard of a junction, they look behind them, and I think they see the route they've taken start to close off, and maybe the tangled vines come across, and I mean, I think if Nathan is nearby, he'll hear kind of Tal whisper to himself, but maybe for anyone really leave them out when it has its time. There's no way to take that shortcut. And yeah, I think probably the implication is Tal has been through this labyrinth before. So I'm spending a token to tell the table something important about the place we're in, which is maybe the labyrinth has a mind of its own, and maybe the legend, the folklore about the paths that grow of their own accord are quite true.
And as I recall, Tal, you were maybe looking for someone related to that advance you chose here. Is that right?
Yeah, so this monarch of long ago who taught Tal a lesson.
Mm-hmm. If it's something Tal has mentioned in passing before, now that we're kind of in the heart of it, I think, maybe Gus raises it again as like, just who is it that we're looking for in all of this, Tal?
Oh, the Queen, of course.
The Queen, of course. What
The
are they the
Queen,
queen of?
of course. The Queen. I'm looking for the Queen.
What is it about this queen that needs your audience with them?
Well, how will I put it? And I think, wolves don't blush, but I think in Wanderhome, there's like, you get a sense maybe that if they did, Tal would be blushing, and like the kind of soft whisper that he was using about the labyrinth like drops, a level again, and he says, "I killed for her, Gus. That's what I did."
I'm going to spend a token and reveal something hidden about the person in front of you, and I'm going to ask Tal what it is specifically, like, who did you kill, or anything else that seems hidden about what you just mentioned.
And I think Tal will maybe sweep aside his cloak to show you plainly, probably for the first time, the scabbard, um, which I think we had described last week as having this shifting writing, or not quite writing, but some kind of symbology.
Not work, I think we said.
Yeah, but something that was like reminiscent of language, or of an alphabet or of a script, but not anything that you could really make out. And the scabbard knows exactly who I've killed. I could recount their names, but we would be here for a while.
And as Gus kind of looks in wonder at the shifting patterns and the letter-like symbols, it says, "Are there really so many, Tal? Were there really so many?" And he seems a bit, awestruck and maybe a little bit faintly terrified.
Yeah, and I think Tal just kind of I think you get that sense that Barnaby knows where Tal is suppressing a snarl or like an angry word, or like maybe the fur on the back of his neck is bristling, and he just keeps walking, but like the answer is yes.
Mm.
And Gus is kind of sure about that.
I think at the next time that the caravan like pauses for a moment at like a courtyard intersection, or as we're kind of like pondering our next choice, maybe, you know, Tal looks away for a moment and then like looks back and sees that like next to wherever he's standing or sitting on a little ledge or on a rock somewhere convenient at hand, Gus has left out a steaming mug of tea. No questions asked, not asked for, and nothing expected in return, just sort of like left out. Gus recognizes that all that Tal is carrying is quite a lot to carry.
So I was with the image of the fountain in the clearing, with all the, was it flower bedecked, flower crowned, folks chasing one another, and not really giving us the time of day. And of course, Barnaby will head for the fountain because he gets overheated very easily and he wants to take a dip immediately. But for some reason, and you tell me, Brandon, I see Remy dancing around the edge of the fountain, because to be in the center of the entire tumult. If that's okay with you, I can imagine Barnaby wanting to come and join her somehow, but feeling kind of too clumsy on land to match her grace.
I like
his
it,
grace.
yeah.
I'm sorry, his grace. I got your pronouns wrong.
Oh, good.
His grace.
It reset, so
Okay.
you didn't have to do. And they would take not much offense to it anyway. But yeah, I think at a certain point, you know, hearing some of this conversation between people who have known each other for a little bit longer, and without saying this is getting heavy and awkward, had, you know, wandered over there and with the kids, ignoring exactly that, was doing a smooth kind of like yeah, like spindly step around the edge of the fountain, just like that. So cool.
And I think Barnaby, I think I see the fountain as like one of those ones with a central kind of column that has a pool at the top. And we kind of established that Barnaby's not a great climber, but he can do okay. And so I can imagine him climbing to the top of that to get a better view. And there encountering, what was the name of the god, the forgotten god here? It was, I think, sorry.
Lost Loves and Crossroads.
Lost Loves. I think that's the one.
Yeah, there's the branching paths.
Yeah. I think the Lost Loves is the one that, so there is a little god sitting on the edge of that. What do you call those? Bowls at the top, looking down wistfully at all the denizens. We haven't established what they are, have we? Or did I miss that?
We haven't. I've been thinking about little hedgehog kith and kind of like maybe, you know, rolling after each other. The flower crowns are staying on because it's a magical, whimsical place. But yeah,
I think the sparrows are in the mix too.
Mm-hmm. Sparrows and hedge piggies. Excellent. And I think I have a move. Wait a second. If I spend a token, sorry. I can listen to the shared wisdom of the small and forgotten god and ask the table what they tell me. And so I think I might spend a token as I greet this forgotten god at the top of the fountain, looking down, the god of lost loves. And what is the wisdom that they tell me? I guess I have to ask the table that.
I think they say that not to like mourn lost love, because if you don't lose something, it can't be found again.
Okay, I'm good with that. There's something precious about lost loves and the potential that they offer.
I mean, I wonder if there's something in Barnaby's mind, like, that is a little bit disorienting about this place. Is he thinking about Antoine, who he seemed to have a connection with at Flickerstone? Is he like thinking he made the wrong decision? He turned left when he should have turned right? What's going on in Barnaby's mind right now?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I think the small god also says that one of the lessons of the labyrinth is that you can always retrace your steps and get back to where you once were, although it might take a while.
Yeah, I could imagine Barnaby's a little wistful at leaving Antoine, his newfound pal, and yeah, and he looks down at his friends who are arrayed around the fountain and the clearing, and wonders if he'll also lose Tal and Gus and Remy and Quoth. So maybe he's getting a little wistful, and he is a reflective otter, so he's getting reflective at the words of the god of the lost loves. He's having inner conflict. I prepare a roll.
I think. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
And I think, yeah, while this is going on, Quoth is just kind of walking around this clearing, looking up at the hedges, possibly just kind of absently picking a couple of the flowers that grow on the vines, threading through the hedgerow. But I'm going to ask, and I think actually I'm going to specifically ask this to Donna because of Tal's connection to this place. But what used to be here? I think that's the question. It's certainly something similar to that. Yes, what used to be here?
So are we talking about this clearing or the whole labyrinth, or how specific are we being?
I'm happy for you to interpret it as widely or narrowly as you wish.
Okay, but this is a question that Quoth is asking.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, it's one of my
Yeah.
do when you want moves. Yeah.
So yeah, I think Tal kind of asks that question, like looks up from his cup of tea, which he is kind of is soothing him a little bit, and here, I mean, this used to be the South Garden, but it's grown. I mean, in the wrong kind of way. The garden is still under control. So yeah, we used to have parties here before. It was quite a raucous place.
Well, it certainly looks as if the young folk there are still doing their bit to keep the spirit of the place alive. Then sort of, as you know, the kind of the hedgehogs and sparrows gambling around the fountain. But yes, it's this growth there is most impressive. I'm hardly a botanist myself, though my mother used to take a keen interest in it, and I picked up a little thing or two from her over time. But yes, it's some really rather fascinating specimens here, and yes, a remarkable place.
Yeah, it seems. Yeah, I mean, I thought we were coming in to a place that was still under control, but obviously the labyrinth has grown significantly since I was last here. But I think if we keep going, we'll eventually get to the palace.
Yes, that's. I think I'm sure you're right. It's. I've heard it's impossible to get lost in the labyrinth anyway. If we keep moving forwards, we should be fine. And then there's that moment where, of thought and things, or is that mazes? Is it mazes you can't get lost in? One of them you can't get lost in, and it might be a labyrinth.
I think it's the other one.
Are we moving as this conversation is happening, or have we stopped?
I think maybe at this point, Quoth is starting to move towards sort of one of the onward paths. I
can imagine you call Barnaby. Somebody calls Barnaby down from the fountain, but before he leaves, he pulls out from his pocket a little snippet of a streamer that he and Antoine were decorating using to decorate the festival, and he leaves it as an offering to the god of lost loves there, and then he scampers down the fountain and back towards his friends.
I think, as Quoth mentions about it being impossible to get lost as long as you keep moving, if his eye happens to glance down a particular hall or way, for a fleeting moment, he thinks he sees he's almost like looking down a path into a mirror of the courtyard you're already in. There, dancing flower-crowned revelers around a fountain, and there's this suggestion for a quick second of like, is there a rook over there too? But that path seems to disappear as soon as you glance back.
Nice. And yeah, I think.
One question.
So.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, and I think he'll kind of do that kind of, a big sort of double take and kind of shake his head out a little bit, but sort of fix his eyes back on the path ahead.
I can imagine as Barnaby rejoins the group, because he had seen Tal get kind of angry when Gus was asking her about the scabbard, and so I can imagine him sidling up over to Tal, who's maybe drinking his tea as he walks, or maybe he finished it, and not saying anything. Oh, I actually think there's a move I have here. Say something in silence better than words can, and just just sidle up and express his support silently for Tal.
I think Tal will kind of appreciate the silence, but regardless, maybe answer Barnaby's unspoken question, like. And maybe it's a non sequitur, given that you didn't hear the previous conversation, but yeah, I'm angry at myself really, but it's okay. I don't do that anymore. That's not me. So it's okay.
Did we already decide what this place has in abundance? If
That's for the
not,
garden, is it?
yeah, I think we're in the garden. Is that fair to say?
I think we've kind of merged the garden and the labyrinth somehow.
Maybe we take just the right turn and we enter the garden right now.
That's true.
If it, taking the idea that maybe the garden extends, into part of the labyrinth, or there's a vague delineation, like a very esoteric way of knowing whether you're in one or the other, because they seem so similar. That the thing that perhaps the garden does have an abundance with its many irrigated fountains is that all the fountains, if you look into them, the basins of all these fountains are filled with gleaming coins, left from all the wishers and people who do it for good luck over who knows how long. And that in every little, in bird baths or any pool of water, there's likely to be a handful of coins inside.
And just finishing that exchange with Tal, I just imagine Barnaby staying in silence as he just looks up at Tal when Tal says, "I'm not that person anymore," and he just looks up at him with his big otter eyes and just kind of nods as they continue their walk into the garden and its abundance of coins. Fountain.
I mean, do we think the coins are? Is there like a culture against taking them, or is there a culture of taking them? Like dipping into when you need something. What do we think the? Because I know, say, like in the Trevi fountain, right? They have to dig out all of the coins every so often because it's so full.
I think maybe they're so commonplace here that taking them isn't considered too much, like it isn't considered impolite, that there's such an abundance of coins here that it's almost as commonplace as like, fishing out a smooth stone to skip across a lake.
Yeah, I think there's maybe like a superstition or a taboo around taking like the last coin from any particular pile. But yeah, other than that, I think it's very common to just
You have to have given the wish a chance to come to fruition.
Yeah.
You can't extinguish it.
I'm wondering what Remy's been doing all this time, and whether they encountered Eustace, the lost hedge piggy, or something else happened to them.
Probably not Eustace, because Eustace isn't one of these kids, and who just really have totally ignored us. But we are moving on, I think, going along with this coin thing as part of this dance. Then was doing that thing spoonbills do with trawling through the water, and comes up with a big shining coin, or actually a little bit tarnished coin, in his bill, possibly one that has the portrait of this queen on it, and we're coming, and is splashes out, spraying water over these hedgehogs and sparrows. and tumbling after.
Very gracefully tumbling.
I think outside of the dancing, I want to say there's not as much grace. It's like
Okay, that's good. That's a good image.
It's just like a
It feels very true of a lot of birds when you see them out of their element, right? Like what was so graceful seconds before, and suddenly it's like, oh.
very flaily. There's a coin in the mouth going, big spoonbill going side to side, glinting.
Gus is. Oh, sorry.
Oh no.
I was gonna say, as we're kind of traversing, and as Gus spots more and more piles of coins, even in, puddles of water and ruts in the road and so forth, he mutters to himself, but loud enough that he clearly intends everyone to hear it. Just think of all the wishes that could have been brought true if people hadn't just thrown all this away.
I suppose it's really a question of whether what price one can put on hope, if it is worth the cost of a single coin to hope that things may one day be better. Then there is some comfort in that, I suppose. Although I do take your point that perhaps taking more practical steps towards one's wishes may be the more sensible way of doing things, and but maybe both. Maybe the feeling of being buoyed up by fate, by making these little sacrifices, helps people to go forth and achieve that which they might have otherwise struggled with.
Don't get me wrong, Gus says. I've taken many a coin from a hopeful person with a wish to be made, and sometimes they came true and sometimes they didn't. But I've seen enough of that going around to know that sometimes, instead of casting your wish coin into a fountain, perhaps you should cast it into a neighbor's pocket and make their wish come true.
That's a very good point. That you make, Gus. I think you may have something there, and I can reach into a pocket and just record it in one of his many notebooks.
And Gus kind of bristles as he realized that if this is attributed to him, it could damage his sort of standing as a business donkey. And he says, of course, this is all, outside of the realm of commerce. A very different, this is not true of the market, of course. And he sort of launches into a poorly constructed defense of why the advice he gave doesn't have any bearing when it comes to trade. This is sort of leaning on the idea that Gus feels like he needs to be stingy, although it is not something that comes naturally to him.
Excellent.
So how do things change as we transition into the garden from the labyrinth? I'm imagining things seem a little bit more orderly or predictable, or the path to the palace doesn't seem so impossible to follow.
I'm guessing the hedges probably start to get a little bit shorter and more well maintained. Like Tal was saying about how the south garden used to be a little bit more orderly, and is now far overgrown. Probably is gone decently outside the bounds of where he would have known it to be. But whatever the monarchy that's here is still keeping at least the area around their specific palace more neat.
There's still a dizzying array of paths to choose from. They're just all very geometrically arranged.
I imagine that there's a breeze here that's more than in the kind of that depths of the high hedges. We can see a breeze coming across the garden, and there's a lot of pollen in the air. and it kind of creates this magical kind of, it almost looks like it's snowing, yellow snow. It's happening here right now. So I don't have to look far to imagine it, but a yellow snow like drifting through the air.
Yeah, I was thinking a very similar thing. I think that maybe it's more orderly in that here there's less natural windbreaks to prevent the drifts of pollen from swirling around us.
I think Gus hasn't realized it until right now that there's been sort of a sound that he would have expected more of in a garden like this, and that it's that in the gardens he's been in that are sort of like sleepy and breezy, there's always like chimes and wind chimes kind of drifting out, but here that particular sound is sort of notably absent.
And I think maybe as we're kind of making our way through the garden, we see the majesty of the palace rising up from the gardens, and it has that kind of obviously deep green emerald color to it, but that like sheen and almost iridescence of gemstone that catches the light through the haze of pollen. And I think it's that kind of dual thing of it being like unmistakably a manufactured artificial building. The harder lines of it kind of make it stand out, but with like the color, it does seem to almost grow organically out of the garden that it sits in.
I don't know if it's something that we realize or maybe Tal knows, but the way that the palace kind of like rises up out of the garden, and a lot of its like columns or stone are kind of wrapped in roots and vines, in some ways like sort of symbolically in tune with the fact that if others are all right with it, the answer to the question who claims to rule it and who really rules it, that the person who claims to rule the palace is Princess Tabitha, but that who really rules it is the old god in the old tree.
I like it.
I wonder if Barnaby or any of his lost and forgotten gods kind of sense that the old god in the old tree is something different, right? Not lost, not forgotten, very much in power.
Yeah, let me just take a quick look here. Yeah, I can imagine that the little sapling gods are chittering into Barnaby's ears in their special language that only he barely understands. But yeah, Sam and Pete and Joe, the sapling gods, they are chittering about the presence of the old tree god, the old god in the tree. Is that how it is? And wanting to go and meet him, and they're pointing at the roots that are at the base of a lot of the columns that support the architecture of the palace, and they're chittering away and saying things that even Barnaby doesn't understand about it.
I think that here at the palace is the first place that we really see those rhino folk kind of decked out in glittering costumes, a lot of them made from similar coins like the kind that we see cast all about in the garden.
They're sequined rhinos, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Let's call it rhinestone. You know.
I was going to say a rhinestone rhinos. I like it.
I keep imagining the rhinos from Disney's Robin Hood. It's like some rhino guards around here too. I'm feeling from the tension between like the princess and the tree that maybe this old god and the old tree is part of why this garden or this is turning so labyrinthine. There's like a battle between trying to keep everything neat and orderly, and then the power of that old god and an old tree keeping things more chaotic.
I think too that the old god and the old tree is loath to have any part of this place that they don't hold and touch directly in their roots and in their vines and all of that.
I wonder where the tree is. Is it at the center of the palace somehow in a courtyard? Or is it off hidden somewhere on the grounds? Because I can imagine the little family of sapling gods is tugging at Barnaby's coattails, wanting to move towards wherever the old god is. But maybe it's further into the palace, actually. Oops.
That could be interesting. Where my mind was first going before you mentioned your small and forgotten gods wanting to go towards it. Then I was like, oh, I don't want to go against that exactly. And I also think it's a cool idea that the tree is somewhere. Its roots are go deep and far, but where it is in the palace is somewhere manicured, like almost like it's contained. It's trapped there, but it is actually what rules this place.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that. I'd been wondering if it had maybe like even forced itself up through like in the throne room or something, but I really like that idea of almost it being like, yeah, caged in a sort of like formal, arboretum garden thing inside the palace somewhere.
I like both a lot. That like both are true. That they're the one flaw is that it is not growing in necessarily a planned place, but it is kind of sprouting from a great crack in a marble floor. But everything around it is very cage-like and straight lines.
The image I keep getting is a bonsai, not necessarily keeping it small, but keeping it trained somehow. And I think what Brandon said, that somehow it's rebelling in its roots. It can't rebel in its branches and its core, but it rebels in its roots.
Yeah, maybe it's roots are the bit that kind of pushing up flagstones in the throne room and the like. It's
to the dismay of all the little hedgehog gardeners that are trying to keep it under control. The army of hedgehog gardeners.
Yeah, I can just see 2 or 3 hedgehogs with their little hands trying so desperately to just push a stone down that just keeps going down and then kind of popping back up.
So I guess we're entering the palace, right? Because we're seeing all these flagstones in the palace being popped up by the roots, huh?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Remy has been gathering flowers for a crown, and I'm going to imagine that they are the wrong flowers. And these kids were moving very fast, and there's probably, we talked about there being particular other kind of flowers, or like there's a reason, a purpose for these flower crowns here beyond just being a thing. But Remy is like just picked whatever kind of flowers in the garden seem interesting, which are not okay to have picked.
I mean, I don't know if that is really obvious, or whether Tal can maybe give you some steerage.
I think maybe I was in the back and then come forward with this flower crown. I'm like, look, and Tal.
Oh, that's rather fabulous. And I think Quoth just has kind of like flowers just sticking out of various pockets rather than having assembled them into a crown. You look practically resplendent in that crown, Remy. It suits your colouring. Very, very, very nicely done.
I picked them for just that reason.
Remy, are you attempting to cause a scandal, or would you like to be kept safe from the difficulties of the world? I guess is the move I'm thinking of.
Well, I mean, if I didn't think this such a an off-fashion choice, but it's not the done thing.
So I think maybe Tal will kind of remove some of the flowers from the crown, and maybe grab a couple out of Quoth's pockets and hodgepodge together something more acceptable, albeit not very well put together, but like giving you the raw materials to have something much more decorous for this court.
Thank you. One must always present well to royalty. I appreciate it.
I mean, it was quite pretty, but like you say, sometimes royalty takes offense at the stupidest things.
Yes.
Oh, and I think
drama queens,
I think as well, Tal, while you've been like getting picking some of the flowers from Quoth, you will notice that his pockets seem to be jingling a lot, as he has been obsessively picking up coins whenever he.
I mean, they're all types of evidence, right? For it's like an archaeological layer for every monarch. I'm just wondering, are we due another quick break before?
Yeah, I was going to say we can take another quick break again. Yeah, come back about 1:15, and we'll pick things up from there.
Okay, good.
Set timer for 5 minutes. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Taking long.
Oh no, that's done. It's more just there's just a lot of everything going on. Quickly, there's still leftover sauce in the pan, so I'm cooking a couple of veggies. What if you want any of those on your noodles?
Oh, good. Well, Andre, today.
Broccoli and stuff in like 1 minute. Okay. I'm sorry I was running in and out so much. I was trying to throw it, he was like, oh, you. Yep. Still said there's so much. Where is that? Then people throw it. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, here it is. It's right here, Pina. Pina, what are you doing? Hello? It fell into like a corner on the right, and you just like ran past it.
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, I think we'll be making our way inside the palace proper. Yeah, I guess I will throw over to you first, Tal. Are you kind of making a beeline for anywhere in particular here?
I think maybe Tal is avoiding making a beeline anywhere.
Yeah, yeah, fair.
Maybe taking an opportunity to kind of show off a couple of the holes that have got to be seen to be believed, you know. So you know, somewhere where maybe Quoth can find a hole of trophies like we had in Flickerstone, of statues of rulers and such that might pique his interest, or maybe there's the lost and found where Gus might see something worth haggling for, maybe there's a ballroom that Remy might find really interesting, or maybe there's the odd secret shrine that Barnaby would love to see. Something like a grand tour to avoid the kind of heading for where he has been aiming for.
Perfect. And Quoth, for one, is very easy to distract with the various wonders of the palace. I think
I like the idea a lot that there is a lost and found here, and that's sort of how they couch their little. It's not even a market. It's just there's a bunch of people who do have like things laid out that theoretically, were lost and that they have found, and that are all, up for, not for grabs, but that are, trade or whatever you might call it.
I have to imagine the cloakroom here, or whatever that is going to be quite spectacular, in size at least.
Is Quoth spending any of the coins that he's been collecting at this market, or are they for collecting pleasure?
They're more for collecting, for their own sake, and the fact they're very shiny.
I think to Gus's like surprise and almost disbelief laid out on one of the little, like on a velvet cloth on a stall. He's like sort of perusing the odds and ends in the lost and found hall, and he comes across an object that he recognizes, that hand card flute that his father made that he parted with so long ago. And he asks the person behind the counter, where did you get this? Pointing to the flute. I think maybe there. Maybe a sparrow or a lynx.
Yeah, maybe. So I guess this lynx maybe is like dressed up like a butler or something like that. He's got these great big whiskers coming out and these tufty ears that kind of defy any kind of control. And I think maybe just by dint of the sprawling kind of bureaucracy of this place, maybe he has to check a notebook. Maybe he has this ledger of all of the lost and founds, and I think he describes, or the ledger reminds him of something, and he describes a great party that was here like 5 years ago, and there was some traveling musicians, and there was some kind of a furore at the dance over a gavotte they played, which was not the right kind of dance for the occasion, and they got run out of the place, and they left. One of them left the flute behind.
So Gus listens to this with avid interest, and after this lynx, finishes reading off all the notes from this ledger, Gus sort of nods and says, we are members of the same brotherhood, you and I. And he produces his ledger, and he flips back through it way back towards the beginning, where he finally finds the page where he sort of described this flute in agonizing detail, and he sort of like puts a finger pointing to the entry and says, here, I think you'll find that this is my flute, and as it's recorded here, I gave it to the object of my love, but it would seem that perhaps they've lost it since, and maybe the lynx, I don't know what the lynx's reaction is to this: boredom, interest.
So it's not just something that Gus would have sold, something that he made himself. So like maybe there's
It was something,
a maker's mark.
yeah, something my father made.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, I think maybe there's a maker's mark on the flute somewhere, which maybe matches the embossed cover of your ledger, and
I'm not saying, of course, that you have to just simply give this to me, but I am saying that by rights it is mine, and that should affect whatever price you deem fair.
Okay.
I would have this back.
Yeah. So I think the Lynx kind of takes out a pair of wire-rimmed glasses and puts them over his ears rather ridiculously, and like peers, maybe puts a claw on your ledger and kind of traces the history of it. And I'm imagining that Gus and his father, being who they are, they never would have gifted. They would have like put an amount on it, even if it was really a gift, just to say they didn't give anything away for free. So it's like some really nominal cost, like a penny or a bit or whatever we have here. And the Lynx says he'll accept that much again to balance the books.
And yeah, Gus certainly has that on hand and hands it over. And he says, I confess that in such times I undervalued things such as this. Its true price was far greater.
Yeah.
I imagine that this lost and found market, for better lack of a better term, is all it's in these arcades around this large central courtyard, and that's where all the stalls are in the arcades. And inside the courtyard, we see the manicured old tree, and it has when bonsai they put the metal wires around the branches and such, so it's been trained with metal wires, but at its base there are these big roots. And I imagine the moment we enter this, when Gus goes off to investigate the market, the sapling gods just go running towards that tree, and Barnaby is right behind them. And as they get to the base of the tree, I imagine they're very raucous. That's one of their characteristics. And I just made them dramatic too. So they start throwing a fit about what's happening to the old tree. And then the roots at the base of the tree open up, and to reveal a small shrine that's been hidden. And Barnaby goes up to look at it, and as he does so, he hears a very imperious voice saying, "Little otter, what are you doing there?" And I think the queen has arrived at that moment with her entourage. And what is the queen? Is she a cat too? Another lynx of some sort? The princess is a cat, so it makes sense that the queen might be a cat as well. A cat with a very large wig. I'm thinking of the queen in Bridgerton.
I mean, maybe it's like a mane of a lion, something to make her seem bigger and more imperious.
And more imperious, yes.
Yeah.
And so Barnaby just looks over his shoulder and kind of cowers down. And does Tal see this from afar?
Yeah, sure. Why not? I think maybe the hubbub of the approaching hangers-on is kind of unmistakable to anyone who's been here before, right? They have a very distinctive sound of chattering and awe and all the kind of things that are necessary for Her Majesty.
So Barnaby is struck dumb and cowers because he doesn't understand what's happening, but he knows that he's in trouble. And he's trying to collect up Joe and Pete and Sam, and that they're just like still continuing to make a big ruckus.
So I wonder what others, Remy and Gus and Quoth, their reaction is to Her Majesty's arrival.
Well, I'm thinking what Remy's thinking of. I think the queen maybe is if Remy is especially a little struck back, continuing to lay in about how tampering with this tree is a punishable offense, though I have not seen you here before, so it may be excused.
Forgive me, Your Majesty, forgive me. I do not know the ways of your kingdom. Please forgive me. And he steps carefully away from the tree. But the roots continue to open, and the shrine continues to be exposed in a way that's angering the queen, I think.
Yeah, she's got like an eyebrow twitch going about it.
Gus has been caught up in a bit of a reverie, like sort of like handling this flute and looking at it after so many years it's been gone. But he kind of comes to when he overhears just sort of the pitch of the queen's voice, and he doesn't take him long to assess part of the situation, at least part way, and he kind of sort of steps forward in a not presumptuous, but in a way that gets a little bit of attention, like he's had practice on sort of like street corners hawking his wares, and says, Queen, I hope you'll forgive this introduction from the matter of this introduction and first meeting from among my comrades, but my name is Gus, and I am a traveler from far off, and if there is anything I can do for you, I would. Trying to sort of smooth over this situation, and Gus sort of like gestures to his wares. Any gift that you would have is one I would gladly give, for it is already yours, of course.
Bribe the queen.
And the sort of general tenor of what Gus bears with him at all times. He has four sort of categories of things. He's got flowers, tea, and beautiful yet fleeting things. He's got knickknacks, tchotchkes, and useless trinkets. He's got clouds, dreams, and miracles no one else could offer, and smokes, drink, or anything people might need to soothe their nerves.
Do you have a sheet to cover this up?
The being the shrine.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I might be able to sort of. I've these beads, these strands of beads, you say, and perhaps from them we could make a curtain that could be draped across. But I'm afraid I'm fresh out of textile goods at the moment. My deepest apologies.
I suppose this will suffice.
Barnaby runs forward to help Gus with the beads and see if they can string it across the opening of the shrine in a way that's respectful to both the queen and to the god underneath.
And Gus inquires of Tall if he perhaps has any more nets he might have been working on that perhaps the beads could be woven to.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Not sure. He had a lot of time working on the ship across the Flickerstone, but I'm not sure he's been able to work on it now that he's been walking for quite a while. So maybe he doesn't. Maybe Tal is just kind of standing there, waiting for the queen to notice him. And yeah, completely not awed by
Her Majesty.
Her Majesty. But yeah, maybe still kind of waiting to be called on. Maybe that is one habit that is hard to shake, you know.
While that's happening, I think Remy glides up and does a deep wings out kind of bow and introduces themselves as Remy of the Flatwater Spoonbills, who, if she knows anyone among the Spoonbills, she ought to know. But I don't think she's all that impressed.
Yes, proceed, my dear. The feeling that maybe the queen's outrage is tempered a little bit by the beads and the distraction of Remy. Barnaby takes a moment to like tear off towards Tal, who's like his security blanket, and hide under the billowing cloak.
I mean, I think probably one thing that Barnaby does notice is that, you know, from underneath the billowing cloak is that, you know, Tal's left hand is on the pommel of his sword. And yeah, he is like maybe drumming slowly on the pommel with his fingers. So maybe not quite as comforting as as it was the last time.
I think. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, and I think this is when after Remy's made their introductions to the Queen. I think that's when Quoth is going to step forward as well and say, "Yes, indeed, Your Highness. It's a pleasure to see you. You have a marvelous palace here. It's really quite fantastic. I apologize. I am not nearly so fine a feather as my esteemed friend here, indicate Remy. But I am truly. It's a wonderful place. I've not seen anything quite like it in all my travels. I should love to hear more about your fantastic court. If it is, of course, not too much trouble. I know you must be very busy with affairs of state and so on and so forth. So I would not wish to intrude overly much on your time. But it's a pleasure to be here.
I think maybe she's not, she's looking dismissively a little bit, but notices your ink-stained hands and happens to have been looking for somebody to write her, not her memoirs, but write of her palace and her lands, and kind of engages with that as like to sort of just hire you or have you do it because you're honored by her.
I think the wildness of the labyrinth has kind of cut them off a little bit from commerce with the rest of the world. And she's feeling a little bit like she's not getting enough attention from the rest of the world, her kingdom. And so that's maybe one of her motivations to write this new history of the grandeur of her kingdom.
It probably starts going right into like, the Queen of a little far too back of like the history of such and such begat such and such, and this is just like expecting you to go to like be into it already without really noticing whether you're that's what kind of writer you are.
Yeah, and I think Quoth will start taking notes as she's speaking. Though there's probably a lot of etceteras in his in the notes he's taking.
So Tal, is this the queen? This is me asking Tal out of character. Tal, is this the queen that made you blush?
I guess it must be. Princess Tabby is nowhere to be seen, so there's the queen is.
Well, it could be. I mean, maybe it's Princess Tabitha. Yeah, I don't know. We haven't
Maybe
met her
the
yet.
queen made you blush by asking a very direct question about your intentions towards Princess
Ah.
Tabitha.
Oh, okay. I thought we were talking more about their more bloody history together.
Could be either
it's
way.
that kind of blush. I don't know. I got
Okay,
the blush wrong.
totally. Yeah, I think I did too.
But why not both, right?
Oh, so the queen had
Both is
ordered
always
you.
the best answer to those kind of one or the other questions, right?
So would this be the moment where you hear a voice say, "Tal, is that you?"
Yeah. I think it's probably time.
And that might be
we
Tabitha.
pussyfooted around us for a bit too long.
Pussyfooted around the kitty too long.
Yeah.
And Barnaby sticks his hat out from beneath the billowing robe to see where the voice came from. And I think it is Tabitha.
Yeah, so are we retconning that so it's Princess Tabitha and not the Queen? Or maybe Barnaby just assumed it was the Queen, right? She looked at
Yeah, maybe it's up to you. It doesn't need a retcon because it looks like we were just making assumptions.
Okay, that's fair enough.
It's your story.
Well, I mean,
It's your backstory, I should say.
Sure, yeah. Which we only invented today, right?
Right, which we only invented today, yes.
So yeah, I mean, I think Princess Tabitha gets like a curt nod, nothing like a bow or anything like that. I think, of course, he will call her Tabby, because that is the inevitable short name for a cat called Tabitha.
And are Barnaby elbows Tal's leg encouragingly, and then flits off back towards the tree now that the threat of the queen has passed, and she's distracted by Quoth. So you are alone with Tabitha, Tal.
Oh, joy. So yeah, I think he'll kind of turn around and be a little bit discombobulated that his companions, who essentially he's been hiding behind, have all abandoned him in his hour of need. And I think he'll kind of sit down without any kind of invitation or anything like that onto one of these benches, maybe that is surrounding the great tree in this kind of internal courtyard.
I did not expect to see you back here again, Tal. Whatever has brought you back to our palace? But she will kind of give a very flick of her hair as she says so.
Well, I came here to have words with your mother, the Queen.
Oh, really? Is that all that brought you back here?
Well, it was the the rook you were just talking to reminded me of the kind of tragedy that we unleashed together in the world before, and I thought maybe I would benefit from speaking plainly with her. Do you want me to say I came back to see you? Is that what you're looking for?
Well, if you're going to make such a big deal out of it, I suppose not. She will let out a dramatic sigh and say, how I wish, though, that I could just simply walk away from this place like you did and wander beneath the starry skies and go to foreign places and rather than be stuck here pacing these barren halls all alone with no one to comfort me or but such, I suppose, is the burden of rule.
I mean, you don't rule here, Tabby. Not both the Queen and the old god see to that. So what's keeping you here, really? You're afraid of what's outside?
I wouldn't say I'm afraid. No, this is where I have to be. You know how it is.
You have obligations.
Yes, of course.
Obligations to swan around and be pretty and hold parties and the like.
Well, there's far more to it than just that, of course, but yes.
Tabitha, are you really that afraid of what might be out in the world? Getting your hands dirty, getting your shoes dirty, even worse. You can leave tonight with us. You have to learn to love smoked fish and overripe apples and whatever else is going.
And I think she kind of contemplates it for a minute and said, and so what of you then, Tal? Are you going to simply come here, say whatever it is you wish to say to my mother, and then leave again, going back to the whatever it is you're doing now?
Yeah. That's what I'm going to be. I'm going to walk to places I've never heard of before and meet interesting people and, find out the best kind of beer to drink. In that place in the middle of the devil days and, exciting stuff.
I think she kind of folds her arms and pouts and says, and what if I order you to stay?
Then you'll have to get used to more disappointment.
And I think,
But I guess we'll never figure it out till you actually give the order, will we?
don't test me, Tal. I'm a princess, and as well you know.
But you needn't be, right? That's, I guess, a confession I made earlier today. You know, what we once were is not what we are anymore. The world is different.
I don't think that's quite how royalty works. Even though I wish it could be sometimes.
Well, let's suggest you can fit your prized possessions into a single bag, which will fit on your back. I would suggest you pack. And when you discover there's no manacles actually holding you to this place, you walk out the door, turn left at the garden gate, and head to Flickerstone or whatever lies beyond.
Gus interrupts with, I've all manner of clever bags to hold a great many things, Your Highness.
I see everyone, at least also Remy, who's like a little too close, just like.
Barnaby's back. He's watching too.
Gus has been maintaining a polite distance as he sort of busies himself with the beads and all that errand. Perfect eavesdropping distance.
And you're used to the complete lack of privacy already, so that won't be much change on the road.
I think he's talking about us, Remy. If you go,
Shuffle over a little bit.
Well,
and I think maybe the kind of last charming proposal that Tal will make tonight is to say, on the road you'll figure out who you really are and what you really care about. That's all I can say.
well, maybe I could go for just a couple of days. I'm sure Mother could do without me for that long.
and Barnaby steps up to her and gets up on his hind legs and presents her with a small, tiny white flower and says, Princess, the old god has asked me to give this to you. It's a symbol of possibilities and new forks in the road for you.
Oh, thank you, stout peasant. And she'll kind of pat you on the head in a slightly, confused but grateful fashion as she takes the flower.
Barnaby takes that. And then he winks at Tal.
Gus has been fastening and unfastening things from Atlas for a spell here. And at last he does hand over a bag and then sort of a big wadded something to Princess Tabitha and says, whatever you can't fit in this bag, perhaps you'll be able to fit it in this net. It was given to me by a dear friend who made it with their own hands. It will not fail you.
Thank you. Well, it certainly seems to like at least you're companions are that's what I'm looking for. Are generous, generous of heart. Perhaps if you travel with them a bit longer, maybe some of it will rub off on you.
I mean, it has already quite a lot.
You'd be able to tell how much of us has rubbed off on them if not for all the soap.
That is, I do not know if that is, I suppose at least the presence of soap is some comfort. Though I should like to avoid too much rubbing.
The rarity of soap on the road is what makes it such a treasure when you find it.
And she'll sort of nod and say, very well. A couple of days travel, and we may see where we get to. But I have no doubt my mother will send people for me if I am gone too long.
I mean, this is where Tal probably scoffs or snorts or something.
And I think with that, she'll say, "Oh well, I shall meet you outside the walls of the garden once I am packed." And I think she's going to kind of sweep off down the hallway.
Does this mean we have a new member of our band?
I mean, till at least you reach the first unpaved part of the road.
You never know. People can change, Tal.
Slowly but surely, but mostly slowly.
And then Gus, sort of like walks over towards the old god and says, trees as grand as this one don't grow in a single day. Many other things are just the same. And with those words sort of hangs up this sort of like amateurishly woven tangle of beads and so forth to adorn the shrine.
Mm-hmm. And I think Barnaby is going to get to work actually restoring the shrine a bit, and jumps in under the tangle of roots and starts doing his magic, because I think it's been a neglected shrine for many years. Does that make sense as a place to stop?
Yeah, I was going to say, does anyone have any last sort of scenes or anything else they want to do before we kind of bring things to a close for the evening?
Yeah, I think Remy joins Barnaby over by the shrine, putting that gold coin in offering to the tree whose side he's on over the queen. That's the last thing.
Yeah, and I think Quoth is just kind of shuffling through a big like stack of index cards with various names written on them that are now hopelessly out of order, and
got his work cut out for him.
And you mentioned, I think you mentioned, so did you mention anything to the princess? No, you were the princess the whole time.
Yes. Yeah.
He was distracting the queen so that we could actually have a conversation with the princess.
probably at that point notices Tal, which is a conversation that we'll just have to imagine what happens.
Awesome. So that is where we will. I just wanted to double check that. No, cool. I didn't think there were. I couldn't remember if there were like any sort of end of session questions. I know I haven't done it up until this point, but it doesn't look like there are. So yeah, I think with that, that's where we will leave things for this evening. So thank you very much, everyone. I'm going to stop our recording now.